Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The purported rape of Busola Dakolo by the pastor of Commonwealth of Zion Assembly, Biodun Fatoyimbo, it was contained in a series of allegations which became public this week and has been attracting a headstream of reactions from around the country. There has been condemnations by a cross-section of Nigerians of what many regard as deep-seated and a widespread problem. Allegations of rape are usually not popular in Nigeria because of social, cultural considerations, and disclosures such as Bukola's are even more uncommon as a result. What stands out, though, is that Mrs. Dakolo's disclosures are still what they are, allegations, until proven beyond a doubt by a court of competent jurisdiction. To throw more light on this, we're now being joined by Anthonia Ojenagbon, the author of Tonya Bruised But Not Broken. Many years ago, she survived a rape attack and has been doggedly championing a crusade against this scourge in Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So this week we saw online a interview. I mean, it was an interview, and in the interview, Mrs. Dakolo did allege that she was raped by her then pastor of Biodun Fatoyimbo. And that lit conversations everywhere. Number one, on social media, but actually just among friends, peers, everyone. And the reason why is because people said this wasn't the first time. People also were commending her bravery. Yeah. As someone that has experienced something so horrible, what was your first reaction when you even saw this?
Immediately I woke up yesterday. It was a call that woke me up. And the person said, check your phone, I sent something to you. Then I checked it. I just started screaming. But if you remember, Timmy has been writing stuff. When he started writing, I just thought maybe people reached out to him. We've heard a lot of allegations, but because of the way Nigeria is, we're still a traditional and a very religious society. When it involves the clergy, it's difficult to talk about it. So when I saw it, first I was happy that she was bold enough to say it, because it has opened up conversations, like you said. More people are now brave to come out. Now, it's bringing a lot of conversation because she and her husband are in the public eye. People have been talking. 5 years ago, a girl spoke. We practically talked her down, and the girl has gone into hiding. She doesn't even want to say anything. Yesterday, she said she's got over 5,000 more followers. She doesn't want them. She's written a book, but we practically didn't believe that girl. But when I heard that girl's story, I believed it because something similar had happened to me. So when my husband read the story, he said, Antonia, I believe this girl.
Antonia, I want to stop you right there, just because you mentioned that about the 5 years ago. I also read the story. Yesterday, I was on social media myself when I saw these allegations, and I read through a lot of the comments, and then went back, such as yourself, and looked for the other story from the other girl from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you feel that, apart from the fact that our country is culturally driven and religion has a big play as to why people are silent and they don't speak out, the status has a lot to do with it? Because in the case of the other lady, she was single at the time.
Yes.
In this case, she's married, with a husband that is also quite famous, with children. Do you feel that that plays a part in why the girl might have been silenced 5 years ago, as opposed to now, why everybody believes or seems to follow along with this story?
No, I think 5 years ago, it was actually unthinkable. We didn't want to come to reality. We didn't want to face reality.
Okay. As a nation?
Yes, as a country and as the body of Christ, like I would say it, because nobody, we were practically saying it's not true, it's not true, it's not true. Now, this person is in the public eye and her husband started it. It's not her. I didn't even know she was in the picture until comments started coming. The last time her husband wrote stuff, people started commenting. So I saw one of those comments and I'm like, oh, okay. Then I spoke to someone who said that the girl was raped by this guy, but I didn't believe it until I saw that interview yesterday. And when I saw that interview yesterday, it totally messed up my day. The calls of course, calls started coming. It took a lot of people down memory lanes. What do you want to forget?
So just so we clarify for our viewers, for those who haven't seen it, this was an interview that is on YTV, produced by Y Niger, that was on YouTube, and now is on many, many platforms, and people can see the interview in which Jidewon is interviewing Busola Dakolo.
So I want to talk to you about what informs your advocacy. If you don't mind, can you share your experience and why you found that interview triggering? I want to know what you experienced based on how you were treated, the legal aspects of it, the societal aspects of it. Do you mind sharing with us?
Okay, I was molested by my uncle, my paternal uncle, my father's immediate younger brother. I was 12. I came to Lagos to live with him because my parents could not afford to take care of us. I'm the first child out of 9 children. My dad died at the age of 46. My mom was 37 and she was pregnant with the 9th child, a full-time housewife. So of course we had to be divided among family members. So my uncle molested me. And it happened for years. He would always tell me, if you say anything to anybody, I will kill you.
How old were you when it first happened?
I was 12.
When it happened, did you even know what was happening to you?
I didn't know, because everywhere will be dark. I just know that somebody comes, raises up my dress, and has sex with me. Now, because we used to attend that church where you never wear earrings, you wear the turtle neck dresses. So we never wore trousers. So it was just skirts and blouses. So I used to think it was my fault, that it was very easy for him because you can just pull up a dress and a skirt. You know. So one day, he's just said to me, if you ever say what is going on in this house to anybody, I will kill you. That was when I was able to put a face to the monster. I never knew who was doing it, but he would come every night.
Were you alone in the room?
I wasn't alone. I wasn't alone.
So what do you now say to those who cast doubt on the allegations that have been made by Busola, saying that she said in her own account that she did not scream, she did not struggle, so that does not mean it was rape? What do you say to those people?
I laugh. If you've never been through trauma, I think it's better not to talk. We live in a very judgmental society. She should be used to it. We're used to it. Now, the difference between an ordinary person molesting you and a clergyman, this is my own opinion, is that for the clergy, there is a spiritually manipulated method they use. The same way we've been brainwashed by religion, that is the same way they brainwash the victims. You will not scream. You just don't want it. You know this thing is bad, and the person is telling you, you should be grateful to God that somebody like me did it to you.
Yeah, she said that. He
yes, that statement is very profound. My grace will cover you, not his grace. My grace will cover you. I'm a covering for you. The person's mind is messed up already. So I don't blame her because I understand. And when I read comments, mostly from women, I said, this is the reason why more people will never speak out about their abuse.
Let's talk about that, the lack of support for women who come out, who are brave enough to come out and make allegations, the lack of support from other women. What do you think informs that?
It's painful. It's painful because one of the most difficult decisions a woman can ever make in her life is to speak about sexual violence. Mostly when your virginity as a woman is taken by somebody you love and trust in a very bad way or an unconsented way. It haunts you. When we were growing up, one of the virtues we were told was you keep yourself. And in the Christian faith, it's such a prized virtue. So when you think about it, how do you think about your first sexual experience and you're remembering somebody stole this thing, you didn't willfully give it? It's painful on its own. The trauma, the psychological effects of sexual abuse, we cannot quantify it. We have a lot of emotionally and mentally broken women who put on makeup like me, who are church workers in church like me, but we still go to church severely depressed to the point of suicide. I was married with 3 children when I first attempted suicide. because I felt my life was worthless.
One of the things that the research says about people that have been sexually assaulted or raped is that there is sort of a post-traumatic stress disorder, and there's
Yes.
no time limit on
There's no
that.
time limit.
And so at any point, these things can come up. And so they
Yes.
can show up as depression, they can show up as suicide. There's overwhelming shame.
Yes.
Tell me about that overwhelming shame, because you didn't ask for this. Why is there so much shame associated?
Because I will keep referring to our society. We live in a society where the abuser is hailed, he walks about freely, and the abused is judged, stigmatized, shamed. That's why most people will not talk about it. I've gotten a lot of inbox messages. I have a voice note. I can't come out. I can't come out. I can't come out.
One of the things they talk about too is anger. Did you ever have a point in your sort of recovery?
Oh, yes. I had a lot of bottled up anger.
Who were you angry at?
At men, generally. When I was going to get married, I never married my husband.
All right, we're going to come right back. We're going to go on a quick break. All right, welcome back. Before we went on break, we were talking to Anthonia Ojenagbon about rape and the reporting of rape. When we started the conversation, we were talking about Busola Dakolo's rape and the fact that she reported. One of the things we were talking about before we went on break is actually the PTSD that happens, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and anger. You were telling us about your experience and your anger, and I was asking you, who were you angry at? How did you focus what did that feel like, being angry?
I felt everyone had failed me. My mom didn't believe me when I said it.
So you told your mom?
Yes, I told my mother. She didn't believe.
At what point? How old were you when you told your mother?
I was 19 when I told my mother because she came to Lagos.
How long did your abuse go?
5 years.
From the age of 12 to 17?
Yes.
Do you know, how did it stop? What happened?
Okay. One day, my friend invited me to a church. And as I got to the church, they made an altar call. Now I know that incest is a sin. So when the pastor said, if you have sinned against God, so I came out. And I was just crying, God, I need help, I need help, I need help. So after everything, the pastor said he needed to see us in his office. Cut a long story short, we were about to leave his office. He said, Anthonia, sit down, you need to tell me something. I've never seen this guy before. So I sat down. And he told everybody to go out. He shut the door and he said, you want to tell me your uncle is sexually molesting you, you don't know what to do. So when he said that, I just went on my knees.
Wow.
Yes, I've never seen him before. That was my first time.
That's the Holy Spirit.
Yes, so I started crying. So he allowed me cry. He gave me a handkerchief. He said, cry very well. So I cried. For the first time, an adult is listening to me. Then when I finished crying, he said, sit down, because it's going to happen tonight. Do you want it to stop? I said, yes. He said, have you ever shouted? I said, no. He said, okay, tonight you are going to shout until his wife wakes up. So when he came that night, and he said, when the wife wakes up and they ask you, you know your dad just died, so pretend like you're having a bad dream. But that night when he came, I started shouting, and my uncle's wife woke up and said, Anthonia, what's the problem? I said, oh, that I'm having a bad dream. But that was the last time. So in the morning, he just looked at me from my head to my toe. He hissed, and he went away. That was the last time. But by then, the mental and emotional damage had been done. You know, self-esteem, everything taken and stolen away from me. I felt ashamed of myself. I felt I did something that warranted it. I always thought it was my fault.
That seems to be the case with a lot of people that have been either sexually assaulted, molested in any shape or form. You know, I want to touch on something that you said, you know, no one believed you. You know, a lot of victims, that is the issue while it's going on and even after, as we can definitely see in the case of Busola.
Yeah.
My question is, what do you feel the role of support should be before, during, and even after? What do you feel that role of support should be from family, from citizens, as we are? What should the role of support be? Does it start with, you know, parents talking to your kids, letting them know to build the trust? Is it within the family home, the unit, wherever, even if it's at a cousin's house, because this can happen anywhere? Is it even after? Friends, colleagues, co-workers, where should that role of support come from? What should it be? What does it sound like?
What does it look like? Yeah.
Support is the best form, the best thing you can give to a survivor. all you can just tell the person, I believe you. That statement alone.
Give strength.
Yes. It's not your fault.
Yes.
I'm here for you. You could give a hug. You could stroke the person's hand. But don't overmake promises you can't fulfill. Just a hug. For example, if the person doesn't want to press for charges, don't go saying, I will get justice for you.
Okay, okay.
Yes. Just letting the person know that I'm here. I need you. I will listen to you if you have to talk. Some people want to talk. Sometimes I want to talk, and I don't want you to tell me anything. I just want to talk. Sometimes I want to cry. I want somebody I can be vulnerable to. I finish crying, and you just tell me, Tonya, you'll be fine. And I use my powder on my face. Then by the time I step out, nobody knows what has happened to me. But I want you to see me cry. And you will not judge me. You will not take it out on me.
So that's part of your healing process?
Yes. For a survivor, the ability and the gift to be able to speak out is difficult. To speak out. I've been bullied. My children have been bullied. My husband has been bullied. We're from Edo State. Why would you allow your wife to say such things on air? My children, your mom was raped. Somebody actually told my daughter in church that her daughter couldn't be friends with my teenage daughter because my uncle used to rape me when I was young. So my daughter comes home and says, Mommy, so said we can't be friends because your uncle used to rape you when you were young. What if I hadn't told my children my story? So I just asked them, I said, should I stop talking? And my son says, Mommy, if you stop talking, more children will not hear about this. You're doing this because you want to help people. It's difficult to talk about rape.
Yes, it's very difficult.
No man wants his family members to know that I'm marrying this girl who has been raped. No man wants his family members to know that, oh, incest is in this girl's family and I've decided to marry this girl. So it's difficult on its own. You gathering that courage to talk about it, then if you are now judged, it breaks you. But you see, the thing is therapy and counseling is available. Now, I run a support group for rape survivors. We don't do pictures, no videos. You know, now we do living purposefully beyond sexual violence. And the last meeting we had, Mrs. Ibukwa Woshika came to come speak to the rape survivors. Sometimes all they need to hear is you will be fine. And if they see a woman like that who is not stigmatizing them, who is willing to come to that group where there's no video, nothing, to just come and talk to them, and they're able to share their pains. You see children who are raped by their biological fathers, uncles, and you know, most of this sexual violence, they are not by strangers. It's just 7%, 93% friends and family, people you know, people you trust, people that when you even say it, your sister can even say, Haba. It was difficult for my immediate younger sister to believe me.
But I want to ask you, did you ever try to seek legal redress? And then what is the current situation with that in Nigeria? Because in the case of Busola, that would be the penal code because the rape allegedly took place in Ilorin.
Yes.
What do you think of the rape laws that we have here? Because for me, I find the penal code highly restrictive. Even the definition of rape is quite narrow. And also the attitude of the police, also in view of the fact that even recently we all heard how women in Abuja going out in the evening with their friends are rounded up by the police and raped. So what happens to your average Nigerian rape survivor who takes her case to the police?
I think the police needs more sensitization, because it's difficult for a survivor to actually walk into a police station. But now, thank God, I can talk for Lagos State. Lagos State has been very, very supportive. You know, we have police stations.
Lots of people have commended Lagos.
Yes, Lagos State is very, very supportive. If you take the case to the police station now in Lagos State, there's always a department there. Yes.
With women.
With women, yes. And people from...
Female police officers.
Female police officers who are trained on how to handle it. Then we have Mirabel Center in Lassus, where you can go for free counseling, forensic testing, without paying. Because sometimes, when you go to the police station, sometimes they tell you to pay. They tell you to pay. if Busola pushes this case, it will be very good. It's going to serve as a deterrent to others, and is also going to boost the confidence of survivors. It's going to help the Nigerian girl generally. It's going to help the Nigerian girl generally.
So this is a moment in time for us.
Yes, yes. And I think a law firm took up the case yesterday, Link. Yes, and the guy tweeted.
As an activist.
Yes, the guy tweeted that he's gotten consent from the family to file, and we're excited. There's a walk tomorrow in front of their Lagos branch. A protest, not a walk.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, at Shiba Event Center. Yes.
Tomorrow.
Yes, and there's one in Abuja too.
So I want to ask you this, and actually I want to bring Tundu into this as well, because you're a lawyer. When I was reading up on this, there's something that they said there's this just world hypothesis, and that the world is people believe that the world is intrinsically fair and may find it difficult or impossible to accept a situation in which a person is badly hurt for no reason. This leads to a sense that the victim must have done something wrong. And they said this about juries in cases of rape, that a lot of times even when you make sure that there's enough women on a jury, there's a sense that people have this idea that the world is fair and that you as the victim must have done something wrong.
I think apart from the world being fair, there's a sense of people wanting to divorce themselves from certain things. You have to be able to think, in order to sleep at night, that happened to her. It can never happen to me. She must be a bad person, so I'm okay. That cannot happen to my child. She must have done something awful. It's
that dissociation.
Yeah, so that you don't take on the anxiety, you don't take on the fear, you go into some sort of denial.
That's the word, denial.
Did you feel like that was also sort of what you were getting from people when you told them your story, like your mom, like your...
Oh, yes. My mother was in denial, and it was understandable with my siblings. Because when my father died, this guy really stood by my mom. Now, yes, I don't blame... I look at my mom now because I've forgiven her. I don't blame her again. But I was really hurting at that period. He stood by my mom. My father died early at 46, so they said my mother killed him. So when my father was... they brought the water first. They used to bath my father's body for my mom to drink. But my mom was pregnant. And my uncle stood and said, no, she should not drink it. When my father was being lowered to the ground and my mom had to do dust to dust, my mother did not wail. She didn't fall on top of the coffin. Apparently, it was an offense that she's not crying that her husband died. So she had to perform a sacrifice. And my mom is a Christian. She did not do anything traditional. So my uncle came and said, the pain is in her heart. She cannot cry. Then, after the burial, they came that there was something she was supposed to do. My mom went to church the following day.
So there was an immense level of trust.
Yes.
That you had built up and she had built.
Oh, yeah. I call him father. I call him daddy. He's like a father figure to me. So, by the time I was talking, my mother told me that God will judge you for trying to implicate an innocent man. Because, yes, it was unthinkable. And my sister said, it's not even possible. But because I kept talking, it took my mother 18 years to believe me. Yes, and I had to begin to do public speaking like this. I went to Ekiti to talk, and my mother said, what are you going there to do? And I told her. So she called me to her room and said, this thing you've been saying all these years, are you serious? I said, yes. So when she knew that I was going outside Lagos to talk about it, my mom broke down and cried. Then she told me to forgive her.
But notice how women are always being told how they ought to react. This is how you're supposed to mourn if you lose your husband. This is how you're supposed to behave if you've been assaulted. And also notice how even you could not even believe it. You did not know who was assaulting you.
Yes.
Because somewhere you were in denial that it cannot be him.
Oh, yes.
Surely
It
not
has
him.
to be a monster.
Yes.
Yes, certainly not him. I loved him so
But
much.
I think one of the things you said earlier in one of your comments was, your husband has been bullied because how can you be with a woman that has been raped? But data actually tells us that 1 in 4 women in Nigeria have been sexually assaulted before the age of 18.
Yes, that's data. But you
So
know,
of course,
we don't talk about it.
It'll be more than that.
Every girl who is getting married is a yes, it's coded. So for you to come out and say, oh, so happened to me, I saw comments.
Well,
talking to
Antonia,
me.
thank you so
You
much
are
for
so
being here.
courageous.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
being courageous.
so
Thank you for
much.
sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thank you for
And we'll
having
keep
me.
on following this
Yes.
story and
Yes.
see where it goes. This is a moment in time for us.
It is.
Yes.